moving on to some players, some NFL draft news with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Our boots on the ground, Nick Martin, has unfortunately told us all week long that guys like Bo Nix, Michael Penix, not having a good week down at the Senior Bowl. Very disappointing. I think both of them lowered their stock from what I have been told from anybody down there, working, covering, scouting, whatever you want to call it. Not a good week for either of those guys at the Senior Bowl. Name who did impress: Spencer Rattler, who was named probably the best quarterback at the Senior Bowl this year. I don't think he was on the Pittsburgh Steelers radar, maybe on the Pittsburgh Steelers radar now. On the other side of that, with those guys not impressing, ESPN came out with a list of all the quarterbacks and where they're going to go and where they're predicted to land. I'm talking draft quarterbacks and free agency quarterbacks, potential trades like Justin Fields, so on and so forth. The name that the Pittsburgh Steelers landed with was Florida State star Jordan Travis in the third round, the 84th pick in the draft. Not a name I associated with the Steelers whatsoever. I think a name that was real under the radar in the NFL draft, obviously because of his leg injury earlier in the season, or I guess late in the season. Comes in here, met with the Steelers at the East-West Shrine Bowl. I think that's a positive takeaway there. You hear the name Jordan Travis. You saw that yesterday. What was your initial reaction when you hear that name associated with the Steelers?
Well, I'm a big Jordan Travis guy. I really like him. And I think he's going to kind of be in the range where I think it's most appropriate for the Steelers to take a quarterback if they're thinking that way. Like it seems like I think ESPN had him going third round. If he's in the third round or fourth round, like I'm lunging at that opportunity. I think he can throw the ball. I think he's tough. I think he can run as well. I mean, you got to obviously see how he recovers from the leg injury, but to be quite honest, I think he's going to be just fine. And I think it's a guy who knows how to win. This guy has watched a program at Florida State build itself up from a really disastrous state into a national title contender. So
yep.
I'm all about Jordan Travis, and I think he's going to be in the right range for the Steelers. And I think you also kind of got to consider, okay, if Nix and Penix and these guys have some poor Senior Bowls, have some poor pre-draft stuff, we can see what they do with the combine. Where do they kind of fall in the mix, and how do we kind of judge them in March versus in February and January? But Travis, I feel like, is going to be right in that prime spot for the Steelers to take a talented quarterback, but not have to spend really heavy draft capital on it. But also, you're not waiting until the 6th or 7th round to just get a Chris Oldokun who's not really talented enough to compete for anything. I think Travis is, I'm not going to call him a first round talent, but I think he is kind of in that top tier of quarterbacks who are serious candidates to compete and can provide some challenges for people, but also be kind of a long-term investment for the Steelers.
Yeah. I agree 100%. I think that if he doesn't get hurt, he's much higher on a lot of people's draft boards. I also think that, just like you said, Penix and Bo Nix are going to impress. They're going to have pro days. They're going to have combine numbers. They're going to move up. That's just what happens. You know what I mean? You hold a pro day, you immediately jump at least 10 spots. That's just what happens. You're just, oh my God, that guy he just threw the football 60 yards.
It's
Did
the
you
Zach
see
Wilson
that throw?
rule. Yeah.
The Zach Wilson rule. Exactly. You're going to be able, they're going to jump. They're going to move around a ton. They're going to improve their draft stock. Jordan Travis is not. He's going to sit exactly where he is right now in that third round range. He's going to be overlooked. He might move up to late second, but I think that's the highest you're going to go. And I think at that point, if you miss him, okay, that stinks. If you could get him at 84, if you could get him in the third round, I think that's a great investment. I think that's the perfect investment for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you could bring back Mason Rudolph, keep Kenny Pickett, and have them battle it out this offseason, and then have a guy like Jordan Travis sitting in the background just working and developing, and maybe he's ready a year from now to be that guy. Who knows? But I think that's the perfect quarterback range for me when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, just because I think 20 is too far back. You're not going to get anybody unless it's like a J.J. McCarthy, and I think even then's a risk. And
oh, no.
I'm not high on J.J. McCarthy. I think I'm higher on him than Bo Nix, but I'm not very high on Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix has a lot of Kenny Pickett potential, which and has nothing to do with the age.
And J.J. McCarthy doesn't?
No, J.J. McCarthy's got a ton of Kenny Pickett potential, a ton of Kenny Pickett potential. But I don't think. But he's like he avoided the Senior Bowl. He'll stay under the radar. We have another month until we have to talk about our like real thoughts on what we see on JJ. You know what I'm saying? Like he didn't have a bad week, so immediately he improved. And I think 20 is, and I wouldn't take JJ McCarthy with 20th pick. That would not.
Okay.
Like I would not be sitting there. That's what I'm trying to say is the 20th I think is too late. At that point, if you're going into the second round, I guess depending on who falls, but I think you could get a good offensive lineman, a good corner in round 1 and 2, going to round 3 and you got options. And if that's a quarterback, cool. You know, at that point, make an investment piece and move on. You hear Spencer Rattler's name. What are your thoughts there? Spencer Rattler's been a guy that, I mean, at one point he was potentially considered like the best quarterback, the best up-and-coming quarterback in college football. Then Caleb Williams emerged, and he was like, all right, oh, Spencer Rattler, I forgot about that guy. There he is. Here he is. I couldn't even tell you where he's projected to go in the draft, but I would expect 2nd to 4th round, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I'm not particularly high on Spencer Rattler. I feel like at times he looks like the best quarterback in the world, and then the very next quarter he's playing like the worst quarterback in the world. Just too inconsistent in my mind to really be worth draft. Like, so he's gonna get drafted. I wouldn't want it to be my team. Like it's just not a little bit too much risk there for me, especially for where he's gonna be. Like Travis feels like a much more sure thing,
yes,
to me than a Spencer Rattler. And I think with this pick, like I think the Steelers should look for some upside when they're looking for a quarterback. But like Rattler's upside just isn't high enough, I think, to justify how low I think his potential floor is. Like,
yeah,
I think there's a chance he could flame out before, like training camp even ends. So I'm not in on Spencer Rattler. I think he could be fine. It's just not a risk that I would be real comfortable with the Steelers taking.
Yeah, I think if you're going to wait it out that far, there's so many names around that little part of the draft. Spencer Rattler is not. I mean, if you asked me a year ago, I'd say, all right, maybe you consider this guy. I'm not a Spencer Rattler guy. I don't think. Just like you said, his floor is so low. I think more of what you're getting with the Spencer Rattler than you do a lot of guys in the middle of the draft there. And that's where you're taking your shots. You're like, all right, this guy, he's got some upside. Spencer Rattler, you're like, he's got third round pick upside. Like that's what he's got, 4th round pick upside. That's what he's got. He doesn't have potential 2nd, 1st. Oh man, this dude was a steal upside. It's all just, maybe. I'm not a Spencer Rattler guy. I haven't been a Spencer Rattler guy. I thought I liked Spencer Rattler when he first came into college a lot more. But yeah, no, I'm not.
He's a fun college quarterback to watch.
That's what I'm saying.
Like
I think
he'll play an
cool.
entertaining game.
Yes. I thought he was cool. I don't think he's not a guy that's going to answer problems, and the Steelers have a quarterback problem, and that's just kind of where you sit if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So I would be more in on Jordan Travis than I am Spencer Rattler, and kind of hearing that name I think would definitely excite me.